20,000.
Did you?
Oh, no.
Just say, oh, I see.
I do. Well, okay, that was an error that day, though. That was a team total. We had a yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, June 5th, and I'd like to welcome you to a meeting of the Concord School Board of Trustees. This is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting the school's corporation business. It is not considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation. As indicated on the agenda, if you'd like to fill out a yellow card and give that to Mrs. Warren as soon as possible before you speak to the board. Welcome. Our crew is a little less, no good things now that all the kiddos are enjoying their summer. But thank you for enjoying your beautiful evening with us instead of outside. And with that, we will start the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Get sad about the thing. Yeah. Right? Are there any yellow cards? That brings us to the consent agenda, which this evening includes minutes from 5/15/23, accounts payable claims, payroll claims distribution summary report, human resource report, conference requests, and conflict of interest disclosure.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, if you give me a minute or so, I would like to
Please.
introduce, as part of your human resources report today, you have approved the hiring of a new position here at Concord to support our EL learners and academic intervention. I'd like to introduce Jenna Kennedy. Jenna has been a teacher here at Concord for 10 years. She was a classroom teacher for 5 and then also an EL teacher for the last 5. I can tell you, because I've looked at the data quite often, that she has provided some exceptional growth for the students that she's served at Eastside, and so we're excited to see how her understanding and her knowledge will help to support Concord in this new role. So, welcome, Jenna.
Well, yes, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to bring some of the ideas that I've had over the last several years that I brought to Eastside with our tremendous EL growth. As many of you know, there has been quite a bit of change over the last 5 years, and there is some interesting data that shows nationally that we are looking at still an upward trend of upwards of 200%. So I'm looking forward to bringing some of that to Concord.
Well, thank you. Welcome in a new capacity. That brings us to Dr. Kendall, 4.1.
Good evening, board. I just wanted to give a brief, well, I think you're one ahead.
Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to give you a brief overview of our ISS structured day room. So we'll be seeking your approval at our next board meeting, but wanted you to have an understanding as to where this came from. So obviously, we want students to be in school as much as possible, and unfortunately, poor decisions are made. So when those decisions are made, it's a lot more effective for the students to be in the school, and that's what the ISS structured day room would be. For example, like we're doing the alternative school for the high school. Well, this is kind of an offshoot of that, where it's an alternative to an out-of-school suspension. So I throw in the word structured day room because it's not your typical, like you picture like Ferris Bueller where you just sit in the detention room and you're in trouble and no one speaks to you. That's not what is going to happen. So you'll have access to those that can help you with your academics. We'll also give students pro-social skill development. And in the information I've given you, the junior high tested that this last year. And so making sure to address time management skills, life skills, mechanisms to help students be successful. So, and just want to reiterate, if the world is perfect and we don't have any students that find themselves in trouble, that individual then would be used as a substitute teacher capacity. And if for some reason we have coverage for everyone, which would be magnificent, then that individual will push in as para support. So, any questions?
I have one. When you talk about pro-social skills development, are you talking about the behavior that got them into ISS?
Yes, so specifically targeting those behaviors where the students struggle, which cause them to get to where they're going to be. So,
I make sure I'm not asking the question. This is a reclassification of a current position, or is this creating a new position?
It's not necessarily creating a new position in its entirety. We're using some of the human resource, some of the people that have been in our permanent sub positions and reallocating that because we haven't been as successful in getting those individuals. So it's kind of what parts of that.
Would you like us to email you with any other questions?
Please
that you have? Very good, thank you. And that brings us to item 5.1, also you.
Yes. So in May, we surveyed 87% of our student population, 4,600 students, and I'm seeking feedback as to how they feel their learning environment is at this time. So, oh, I have the thing. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So here are the 5 categories. So we want to look at how students felt within the classrooms, their expectation, their sense of safety, engagement, a whole array of those climate type items that we want to know of our students. And then we also provided schools an opportunity to integrate building-specific questions. And so those in our K-4 buildings focused on their character ed programming. So with that being said, I wanted to jump into the results, and I want you guys to understand is that we're going to continue to monitor this data, so this isn't a one and done. We want to do the same thing next year. We'll do it about October, then January, then April, May, so we can integrate actionable steps with our students within the classroom to help support growth in this area. So where I want you guys to focus is the red circles. But first, when you look at this, I want you to realize that everything would be out of 5. So 5 would be 100% amazing, and so it just goes from there. So the first one, when it comes to valuing schools, and understand really quick, I keep jumping in, is that this is district data. This is not building specific. The building principals have access to the specific data for their buildings, and they also can go through and tweak, whether it be, socioeconomic status, gender, whatever the case, EL population, so you can zero in on how specific populations are feeling. So the first one I want to pinpoint when we talk about the district right there in the right-hand corner is it is important to me that I do well in class. And this was pretty exciting for me to see because a lot of times people will say, well, kids, they don't always want to come to school. And, their attitude about school might not be where we would want it to be, but this is showing that students do want to do well in class. So I think this is important. Sitting in a building administrator seat, I want my staff to see that, hey, they want to be here. Let's do this. Let's make this worth their while. So I thought that was pretty encouraging.
That was out of a 5-point scale.
Yes. Next up, we have rigorous expectations. So this again, I wanted to pinpoint after we went through COVID and everything with the pandemic, in the right-hand corner where it says my teacher set high expectations for me. I know that everyone was a little bit hesitant. Can they handle the rigor that we want them to handle that we were able to have them handle before? And so this is showing that they want more of that challenge. So again, as in the building principal seat, I would show my teachers, hey, they want to be pushed, okay? Let's not cut that short for them. So I thought that was interesting. Next up. School belonging. So these are categories where we start to see a decrease in satisfaction, where we want to pinpoint our energy. So here, I feel connected to the adults in my school. When we look at that, there's obvious room for growth here. So again, when we're going to meet with principals next week in a retreat, focusing in on this data and telling them that that connectedness is really important, especially when it comes to students feeling that sense of belonging in school. Next up, student engagement. I'm excited to participate in class again. That would go back to what are we doing on a classroom level to get kids excited about learning, and how can we improve, because they aren't where we want them to be, so continuing to push the bar on that. And then the last one, school safety. Again, this comes back to something we want to improve. Students admittedly saying that they could be more respectful to one another. So what can we do with our students to get them to be more supportive of one another? So then when we jump to the next slide, I just wanted you guys to get a feel for what the building specific questions came to. So for the top one, this was just West Side, but please understand when it comes to PBIS, South Side does it as well. But so if I'm Jessica Brock and I look at this and it says I have a trusted adult at my school and want to show my staff whatever we're doing with PBIS is working because the students have that connection to the adults in the school. And then the one under that comes from capturing kids' hearts, so that would be Southside. And so one of the things they do on a classroom level is they have social contracts, which is essentially a contract with the students in the class. Like we will respect one another, we'll participate in class. And so if I'm Miss Lupi, I'm looking at this and saying, 56.9% of my students feel that the social contract helps in their class. So again, this is feedback and support that the buildings can use for this next semester. And then when we jump to the next slide, our focus areas, again, when we meet with principals, we'll look on how do we increase that school belonging and engagement. And I did want to say, and going through this the first time, we got some interesting feedback. I don't know if you guys have seen a picture of this, but the survey has a little smiley face for the young ones, and they go up and down, and we learned kindergartners not be a little smiley face because they just like to see the face go up and down. So that's a tweak we want to do. It's super cute. And then a kindergarten teacher said, when it came, there's a question, do I have somebody that I can go to when I feel that someone's being bullied? And she said they heard the word bully and they automatically went down to the sad face when really they all wanted to say yes, there's someone they can go to. So, and then the high school provided feedback, which was meaningful. They wanted more questions about school environment, which I thought was interesting. So, so great feedback. We don't want to tweak too much because then we can't compare and contrast the data, but let's just start. Any questions?
Yeah, can we go back to the safety bit? Actually, first off, what was our response rate out of the whole school?
So out of the whole district, it was 87%.
Did we, specifically looking at safety, did we get any kind of school-specific data, like the high school students, what percentage of high school students feel safe at their school? Because I'm worried that the way I'm looking at this, that we might not be getting some skewing from the little kids, which I worry that, I guess based on, I counted out like a 77% response rate from junior high and high school. Would the results be a little worse if we took out the grade schoolers?
So if I'm looking specifically like at the high school by itself, I can look at that percentage and see what it is and not be skewed by the overall district. And I can break it down by specific questions that were asked in line with safety.
Okay.
So yes.
If you wouldn't mind, I'll just, if you get at some point, email it to me. What conclusions have you guys drawn from that particular? Because I see, if you go back, I see that we got basically the safety amongst the engagement, and I forget what the other one was, red circle. I don't know if you missed the safety one. What's our conclusions on that?
The ones with conclusions, so I'll go through the
The
questions.
safety one specifically.
Yeah. So there were 3 different questions that were asked in that group. One being how we treat one another. Can I get help for bullying? And do I feel safe from unsafe behaviors? And so the conclusions is we need to improve those areas, specifically safety from those that choose unsafe behaviors.
Sure. You said you're going to be meeting with the principals, so we don't quite have a plan just yet.
So this data is fresh off the press, so we meet with them, we meet with assistants actually this week to start diving into next steps and then the principals.
Yeah, I guess my main concern, my main concern is that we aren't necessarily getting the full accurate picture of what's going on at the junior high and high school level, because ultimately that's what the safety starts to break down and start putting kids on their own. So yeah, I'd like to.
We can come back at the next board meeting
Yeah,
and
we could.
present junior high and high school.
Pretty good.
Any other questions?
Anything else you guys would like to see?
If we think of anything, we will email you. Thank you, Dr. Kendall. Oh, you're still up. Okay, so 6.1, an MOU.
All right, so this is our MOU with the Juvenile Detention Center. This is a recurring MOU. And it essentially is that compact between them and us when it comes to students within our school district that, or within, knowing that JDC is in the Elkhart district or in the Concord district, making sure that we provide them services and supplies. So we're like a gateway essentially through our Title I grant to provide them those unnecessary supplies. We're asking for your approval of this MOU. Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Dr. Kendall? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Dr. Kendall, you also have 6.2.
And the last one is entering in, again, this is a reoccurring MOU with Indiana University for our dual credit students. This would be for Spanish, public speaking, and chemistry.
Motion to approve as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Davis. Any comments or questions for Dr. Kendall? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you, Dr. Kendall. Mr. Myers, it's your show next. You're gonna start with 6.3.
Yeah, thank you. I am bringing a memorandum of understanding to Goshen College to partner with them. As we've talked a lot about this year is our increasing EL population. One of the areas that the state has required us is a certain amount of time with our EL students each day to support language acquisition. And we don't have enough, our teaching staff is not supported by the funding from the state. And so we have to get creative, right? And so one of the ways that we do that is by training our classroom teachers in EL strategies to be able to support EL students every day. And so this memorandum of understanding is to partner with Goshen College to train 6 teachers this year. Every year we've trained over the last few years, have trained a number of teachers to, again, continue to grow that pool to be able to support our students. So I would ask for your approval.
A motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Mr. Myers? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6.4.
6.4, so pre-calculus. I recently came to you with a request to purchase books for 6th grade through Algebra 2. Many of our book companies do not include pre-calculus as a part of those adoptions. And our pre-calculus book that we've used for a long time, which is Ron Larson Pre-Calculus, is over 20 years old and falling apart. And so I'm really coming to you with a request to refresh. Refresh to get new books and also to access technology that is different from what it was 20 years ago.
Motion approved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Malooly, a second by Mr. Yoder. Any comments or questions for Mr. Myers?
Can you mention 6 year? So 6 year block.
It's a 6 year. 6 year, when I came to you with math, I asked for a 1 year and the just the differences in cost and, relationship to that made it better, I think, for us as a district to do a 6-year plan for just this one class.
You're right, the books are pretty tired. It's awesome.
They are very, yes.
Anything else? Hearing nothing, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that brings us to 6.5, Mr. Myers.
So as we continue with our strategic planning, one of our areas of focus is foundational reading, and that's specific to our K2, K3 students. And so the more that they learn about how to read at an early age, the more, the better they'll be successful in school. This past year, we identified a new textbook, and so we have new reading and writing instruction going on in our K6 classrooms. And our next step that I'm coming to you today is to increase our training for our teachers. Many of our teachers went through college programs with varied instruction about how to teach reading. And so as we are going through our textbooks and as we're learning more about the science of reading, one of the areas that, one of the processes that is really strong is called letters. And so we would like our K2 teachers, our intervention teachers, instructional coaches, and administrators to go through that training this year. It's a 4-day training, so it's spread out throughout the year. And that's it's quite intensive. So we're asking a lot from teachers, but there is a lot of applicable learning that will be supportive of what they do. For that.
Paying for this out of the education fund. It's a one-time expense, but
Motion to approve as presented.
A motion by Mr. Yoder, a second by Mrs. Towner. Any comments or questions for Mr. Myers?
This is a one-time training, which is great, but then what happens for the people that we hired?
Yeah, so we can, this training is offered any year that we want to. So new people that come on, we can offer new trainings. There's also the opportunity, we actually had about 8 people go through the training last year, including myself, to be able to see, was this something that we felt like would benefit the rest of our staff? And we could have staff go through the train-the-trainer programs to be able to train, and it would make sense for our coaches to do that, to be training our new staff. Yeah.
Approximately how many hours or days or weeks?
Yeah, so there's 4 full days of training, as well as about 120 hours on top of that. So we're asking for a lot from our teachers. We will compensate for that time, but we are, and so we're working on being creative about how do we work with our teachers in groups and talk about what we're learning. It's challenging material too. It's not a program, so they're not going to implement anything, but there are strategies that come from this program that they'll use with kids every day. And a lot of our teachers are really excited, and we're looking forward to getting started here soon.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Myers. That brings us to 7.1, Mr. Constant.
yeah, so we will have a larger update from the spring update from Neola, keeping our board policies current, all the legislation and such. But we had an instance arise that we didn't have a policy for, so presenting you a draft of a remote work policy. If you remember during COVID, There were different resolutions passed by boards in terms of all that, but nothing was ever established for remote work in general. If you read the policy, what you will see there is that, we are setting out that we need our people to be in person, and it's only the rare instance where this sort of arrangement works out, that's at the discretion of myself for that. This came up because we had a state data reporting person that works for us, that the family is relocating to Indianapolis. And this provides us, we're going to try it on a short-term basis, provides us an opportunity to continue to comply with state reporting requirements. She doesn't attend meetings. She literally is on her computer doing state reporting for us. So I feel like it's a good opportunity to see if that works or not. So yeah, first reading. So if you have any questions about the policy, just give me a call.
Very good. That brings us to item 8.1. Ms. Jolivier.
Good evening, board. Back this evening with the second reading on board policy 5111. Triggers for first reading last month, and again, it's just where we're trying to define good standing as it relates to attendance and discipline. These are metrics that we will use when we're determining eligibility for our students. Those are already with us and those who would like to join us in public school. So, it was easy to see your approval of that.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Malooly, a second by Mrs. Davis. Any comments or questions for Mrs. Spear? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed? All right, you also have 8.2, Mrs. Spear.
Thank you. So we are looking at some different ways of kind of streamlining our approach to communicating with families when it comes to their students' attendance, as well as making it a little easier for board absences when students sick. So Qualtrics, which is our survey and data platform we're already utilizing, has something built into it that would allow us something called a website intercept. And what this does is it allows parents to digitally enter their student's absence, for one. So they would go in as a security measure, so the kids can't just log in and mark themselves absent. They enter the birth date and their student ID, and then the parent or guardian receives a message right away letting them know that comes from the so they won't be able to fast one on that. And then once students hit certain thresholds, the system would trigger messages to families to give them private days their child was missed, reporting that we used to do manually right now, but this would help with that as well. And then at any time we can pull the dashboard and see exactly what a child looks like in a building or a classroom level, keep track of those things easier as well. So we're excited about that. And then there's some other things that the school can do too outside of attendance. So if you've ever accessed the website where they have click for help, and it pulls out and you say, I'm here for website today looking for a job, or I have a question about whether you're looking for employment opportunities or enrollment or student safety, might even be one on there. This website can take you to a web page within the website that has people or reroute the right person that can answer their questions. So both of those just exciting tools for us to try to do our best to answer families' questions and stuff like that. So what we'd be asking for is your approval of an addendum to our existing 5-year contract. That is, let us add this website to our existing website.
I have a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mrs. Thomas.
This message on behalf of the returns.
I believe it's in
When you say that, visit the website and can, the little help button can help you, is it going to be something as updated as, is my child's baseball game canceled tonight? Or is the play still on? I feel like that's where a lot of people will push for instant questions. And I'm curious if they would be able to keep up with information like that.
Absolutely. I mean, if they can't keep that current, it's definitely route it to the right person to get back to them with that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would like to know that. Yeah.
You just pass out the cell phone number.
What else was the other option?
All right, I feel like that's okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mrs. Beer. Oh, yes, yeah, you're done. That brings us to Mr. Evans, 8.3.
Thank you, Mrs. White. I'm presenting the proposed 2024 calendar year budget. Appropriation calendar, as you can see, most of the dates on the calendar are things that happen behind the scenes, don't necessarily involve the board. Three dates that do involve the board would be September 5th, which would be the budget workshop, to review the budget, look at the different funds, look at the proposed budget for those funds, et cetera. We, at that point, we request permission to advertise that budget, which we then start the process of advertising on Gateway. There's a short period of time after pass, some days between that date and we have the first hearing. First hearing then will be on week 18, which would be hearing on the budget, and then 10 days after pass. So then the next important date would be the 2nd of October, which would be the adoption of the budget. So 3 important dates for the board, normal board meetings, September 5th, September 18th, and October 2nd. Would be the dates that involve board action on the budget.
So,
I have a motion by Mrs. Towner, a second by Mr. Malooly. Any questions for Mr. Evans? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
That brings us to 8.4, Mr. Phillips.
Good afternoon. So tonight we bring you the, we're replacing the batting cages. There wasn't the ground we currently in, the existing one is getting water. So this project will actually be removing those and adding new ones just north of that. We opened bids on the 25th of May, and we have a letter from TMP Architecture with recommendations to award the bid to Hardwood Construction. $149,485.
I have a motion by Mrs. Davis, a second by Mr. Malooly. Any comments or questions for Mr. Phillips? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Phillips. All right, that brings us to sharing from the board.
I'll probably steal your thunder, but the after the school celebration was just awesome. Thank you to all the.
Steven and I just put the hamburgers.
No, I meant the program that you all.
Oh.
Never
Never mind.
I'm talking about the fun after.
Good as the walking too.
I know Officer Schuman said that Oxbow wants to win, so that's why your wife is gonna come work for us now.
Well, since I didn't know if anybody else was going to take it, but sounds like somebody did, but I do want to recognize Officer Schuman because it was quite obvious, number one, everybody enjoyed themselves, but also just the amount of time and effort, which time for a cop is kind of at a premium, and somehow he found it and did a very good job putting this thing together. And I think I've heard any negative feedback from the teaching staff.
Other than you almost hurting yourself.
Well, I just found out I can't get work this time, so I got to deal real quick.
A little stretching next time.
Eric, how much did you end up raising in donations at the end?
We raised 900 monetary donations. And then there was other companies that donated various things. And we only spent $307. So We have enough money for 2 more years.
Here we go.
Or, the next tournament.
Can we break up the high school next time?
Absolutely not. I like that trophy sitting in the front office.
And watch out next year, because they ain't gonna be pitching.
We're gonna celebrate our graduates tomorrow, which is always a wonderful night. I always love looking into that audience and, just thinking, oh my gosh, the possibilities that are in that room. And so that's always one of our favorite nights, and we had, 2 really successful, track participants down in state. Our boys and our girls did really well, and so, I just want to congratulate them as well. So you,
All right.
do we take all your stuff?
No, not at all, and I won't be long. I think generally, I would just say I feel like we ended the year strong. I think that we're really looking forward to a couple days with our principals next week to not complete, but to further along our planning for next year, our emphasis. I think you heard tonight, I think what Ken talked about was a perfect example in developing our people. The only way we get good results is to develop the teachers we have and the right things. And so between hiring a coordinator that's going to help with some of that, the training we're providing our teachers, and our plan moving ahead, I think we have ended the year strong, looking forward to next year. I will say this, when we talk about the strategic plan, you've heard Qualtrics mentioned a couple times tonight. The dashboard is in progress. We've had some technical glitches. Everybody's having technical glitches with PowerSchool, I will say that. When you interface with PowerSchool, it takes a while to get the exchange of data between that and everything else in a good place. But it's a priority for us this summer to get that working. We got the right people working on it, and so that dashboard should be coming soon. But I would point you to the GPS dashboard. I gave that presentation on the state's graduates preparedness dashboard a few months ago. Those are the overall metrics that we're looking at. And really, you just Google Indiana graduates prepared to succeed. That'll take you to those places and help you find our strategic plan. I know you find our strategic plan is geared towards us excelling in all of those areas. And so, just wanted to remind you that that's out there, give you an update on Qualtrics, and then just a reminder, graduation is tomorrow at Notre Dame. Make sure you get your parking pass in the front there, lot 8, which is right next to the Joyce Center. Or is it called the Joyce Center anymore? So it's easy in, easy out right there, especially for everybody who hasn't done it before. That's it.
Mrs. Bo did send out the best route to.
Yes.
Yeah, you basically go north of Notre Dame and come back down.
All right, very good. Thank you for everybody participating tonight. I need to take off my glasses. Meeting adjourned at 5:38 p.m.